Just over 2.5 miles stood between Ayrton Senna. It was pouring with rain and he was in intense physical pain.
"30 years ago, the most tragic event in motor racing history happened. The greatest racing driver ever still inspires millions around the world. In this heart-touching, emotional film, we will shed a new light on that fateful weekend. Some of the sourced information in this film comes from the book Fatal Weekend by Tom RUBYTHON. What we're about to show is a short teaser of what we're going to talk about in this section of the documentary. So join us as we're about to pay tribute to the greatest F1 driver of all time. Ayrton Senna joined the Williams-Renault team in 1994, hoping to win a fourth world title, but the car was not what he had expected. He found the Williams FW16 more difficult to come to grips with than he expected, and he struggled in testing. Nevertheless, he put the car on pole for the first 3 races by driving out of his skin, taking too many risks and literally making the car perform. His own most private view was that the car, without active suspension, was dangerously unstable. He said, "I went through a lot to be able to finally sit in that car. Either I haven't adapted myself to the car, or the car doesn't suit me." Best car, best driver, I don't know, he mused to himself publicly one day. In truth, he did know. He was, the car wasn't.
A year ago the difference was with the electronic suspension, the cars were riding the bumps a bit better. Now with the normal suspension, it is very difficult for setting up the cars and getting the cars to ride smooth over the bumps.
A spin in Brazil in the opening round and a first corner collision in Japan created so much pressure for Senna going into the third round at Imola. On Wednesday, the 27th of April, Ayrton Senna touched down at Bologna Airport. To all intents and purposes, Senna was arriving for the San Marino Grand Prix. In reality, he was headed to the Bologna country house of Luca di Montezemolo, the president of Ferrari. The meeting with Montezemolo had long been planned, and the San Marino Grand Prix was the perfect cover. The truth was that Senna had been less than impressed by his first few months at the Williams team. He had only agreed to move to Williams because it had the best car and he badly wanted to win the World Championship again. But it was no longer the best car, the Benetton Ford was. And, even worse, he found the team was not run to the same high levels to which he had been accustomed at McLaren. The Williams standard was nowhere near on par with McLaren. Everything at Williams seemed to be done as economically as possible with an eye on the bottom line, the exact opposite of how McLaren was run. Worse, Frank Williams and Patrick Head treated Senna like he was just another employee. Ron Dennis, for all his faults, treated his drivers as very special people, and their every need was attended to. At Williams, Senna found that none of his needs were attended to. He confided to friends, "It has been difficult for me at Williams. It is very different from being at McLaren." Patrick Head and Frank Williams were unaware that Senna was unhappy and already thinking of leaving. Senna had discussed his feelings about his new team with Gerhard, his former teammate, and was very interested in how Ferrari was run. He told him it was in the same league as McLaren. Drivers were made to feel very special. Senna had come to realise that he had arrived at Williams 2 years too late. In reality, the car was poor, far slower than Michael Schumacher's Benetton, and only his skill and sheer bravery was making it work. Senna decided there and then that he wanted to drive for Ferrari in 1995 and effectively told Montezemolo that he would find a way to break his Williams contract, which expired in 1996.
On the 28th of April 1994, in Padua, Italy, Ayrton Senna arrived at the Carraro bicycle factory. After more than a year of planning and projects, an agreement for the construction of a series of bicycles was concluded to manufacture a carbon fibre bicycle called the Senna, that would carry his famous double S logo. It had been planned for some time and was one of many new products under the famous double S Senna brand.
Senna had a lot on his mind that Friday morning. Since his meeting with Luca di Montezemolo 2 days earlier about his agreement to join Ferrari for the 1995 season. On his mind was the poor handling Williams car and the cheating Benetton. His brother and family were also trying to persuade him to end his relationship with Adrian. Senna had come to the conclusion that the return of Alain Prost could be the key to Williams letting him go. He was also thinking about his relationship with the FIA and the motor racing establishment. Ever since the start of 1994, he had felt persecuted. He was the only world champion left racing, and therefore the senior driver on the grid. He was also the driver's unofficial spokesman, but the FIA hierarchy hated him for it. He thought the new FIA president, Max Mosley, was orchestrating the opposition to him. He wasn't sure where Bernie Ecclestone stood either. In between Japan and Imola, Williams had been testing intensively at the Nogaro circuit in southwest France to find the source of the Williams car's multiple problems. A number of changes were promised for Imola, but Senna was sceptical that the modifications would make any real difference. The new car had been consistently slower than the Benetton, despite having a more powerful Renault engine. Both Senna and his teammate Damon Hill had said openly that the car was horrible to drive. It was clear from the difference in Senna's and Hill's times that Senna was driving through the problems. Ayrton had enormous reserves of ability and could overcome deficiencies in a chassis. Coming into Imola, he was 20 points behind Schumacher, so only victory would be good enough.
We have some problems, but I think we have a good car, and I think we have a good engine too. We just have to work on these problems at this moment, which the team is doing. And for that, we have some modifications here at the Imola, which we shall be trying the next 2 days, hoping to improve part of the difficulties we have found so far.
At 1 p.m, the first qualifying session began and Senna was soon fastest. But 15 minutes into the start of the session, the Jordan of Rubens Barrichello hit the steep curb in the middle of the 140 mph Variante Bassa chicane. The curb acted as a ramp, lifting the Jordan up, and it flew through the air. The car was out of the driver's control, and Barrichello lowered his head the best he could and covered the front of his visor with his hands as he waited for the inevitable impact. The car hit the tyre barrier and glanced off it before smashing into a debris fence, slowing down with tremendous force against the flexible barrier before hitting the ground. The crash was horribly violent, but the tyres had taken some of the pace out of it as Barrichello bounced around upside down and ended up suspended, unconscious in the car. He was taken to the medical centre, but only escaped with a broken nose and bust lip. Senna went straight to the medical centre where Barrichello was laid. Barrichello momentarily nodded off, and when he woke, he found Senna looking over him. "The first face I saw was Ayrton's," he said. He had tears in his eyes. I had never seen that with Ayrton before. I just had the impression he felt as if my accident was like one of his own. On Saturday, tragedy struck Roland Ratzenberger. He crashed his Syntec into the Villeneuve curve at such a high speed. He suffered fatal injuries at just 33 years old. Ayrton was watching and he knew straight away it was very bad. Ayrton went out onto the circuit to the accident site and spoke with Professor Sid Watkins. Watkins realised then that Senna had not been in close proximity to death before. He said of Senna, he was very shocked. He had never faced the reality of his profession before so starkly because no one had been killed during his time in Formula 1. He was always fatalistic about death. He was a religious man and intelligent enough to think it through, but this was the first time it had come close. Watkins said to Senna as he was crying on his arm, "Ayrton, why don't you withdraw from racing tomorrow?" Senna's response was, "Sid, there are certain things over which we have no control. I cannot quit. I have to go on." He had to race. It was what he was born to do. Those were the last words he ever spoke to Professor Sid Watkins. Senna arrived back at the Hotel Castello. He found the inevitable Italian Saturday night wedding in full swing. He was so upset that when he was asked to pose for a picture with the bride and groom, he uncharacteristically refused, but the sight of the joy of a wedding brightened his mood considerably. As soon as he got back to his suite, he telephoned Adriana. She asked Ayrton how he was, and he replied, "It's very bad," before he started to cry. He told her about Ratzenberger's death. Then he broke down completely and told her he was not going to race the next day. He said, "I have a really bad feeling."
Following a restless night, Ayrton Senna remained uncertain whether to race.
Ayrton Senna said, "Nobody else can, considering that in our profession we deal with ego a lot, with danger, with our health, continuously, second after second, not just day after day, or month after month, or year after year. Our life goes by in seconds, even milliseconds. You are relying entirely on the car, and in the light of Roland's accident, it brings it home that sometimes you are just a passenger, putting your faith in components."
Ayrton Senna, lined up for the last time in first place on 1st of May 1994.
authorities have done a lot of work over the past few years, and safety has improved a lot, but still is dangerous because there are moments that an unexpected situation can happen and you are exposed to a dangerous situation. But without it, wouldn't be the same, on the other hand. So part of some excitement and some emotions you get are related also to some risky situations that you are bound to find during your driving.
There was so much pressure on Ayrton that weekend. He was not going to come second again to Schumacher. The death of Roland had heightened his passion to beat Ayrton Senna and to win. It's how he approached his sport and his life. It was his mission not to give in to any form of fallibility. Senna put a force field around himself before a race. Senna's modus operandi on the grid was to sit quietly, belted up with his helmet on in the car for the 15 minutes or so before the start. He prepared mentally for the first corner, replaying it in advance over and over in his head, what he was going to do. This time, he broke his usual routine by taking his helmet off, removing his balaclava and loosening his seatbelt whilst remaining in the car. As soon as the lights went out, there was a shower of debris.
Now! And Senna boils away. Schumacher second, Berger third, Damon Hill, and that's a Lotus. They'll have to stop the race, I'm sure, because there's debris on the circuit. That is Pedro Lamy.
The risk of punctures was huge. The race should have been red flagged. At 2:03 p.m, the safety car emerged and picked up the pack of cars for 5 laps. The pace car was painfully slow and tyre temperatures were dropping dramatically.
Lights on the roof. Normally he would have a problem to pick up the leader. The ruling is that he picks up the leader and then all the others have to fall in line behind the leader with no passing allowed, which is led by number 2, yellow helmet, blue and white Williams Renault of Ayrton Senna. And Michele Alboreto it was who was touring, and he has gone into the pits, presumably with a repetition of whatever the problem was that made him start from the pit lane.
At 2:15 p.m, the safety car pulled off the track and Senna put the hammer down.
As Senna, followed by Schumacher, there is Berger. We're on lap 6 now, and the San Marino Grand Prix is go again, and as before, Schumacher is the chief rival to Ayrton Senna, who comes down to the Remastered. There's Berger third, Damon Hill is fourth.
He seemed even more motivated now than he had been 15 minutes earlier. With a full load of fuel in his car, he clocked 1 minute 24.887 seconds on the 6th lap on cold tyres. It was an extraordinary time, and only 2 drivers, Damon Hill and Michael Schumacher, had bettered it by the end of the race. Senna knew he had to put space between him and Schumacher, who, running a lighter fuel load, appeared to be able to refuel his car a lot quicker at pit stops, and was using an illegal traction control system on his car. Schumacher couldn't keep up with Senna and fell behind immediately, but the fast pace of the race suddenly worried Sid Watkins so much, so he turned to Mario and said, "There's going to be an awful accident any minute." 14.4 seconds later, there was. At exactly 2:17 p.m, Senna approached the Tamburello curve on lap 7. Senna was driving out of his skin, experiencing extraordinary feelings and emotions. Clearly, something comes out the back of the Williams car.
We are right with Michael Schumacher now, and Senna! My goodness! I just saw him plunge off to the right, and Senna has joined Pedro Lamy and JJ Letter in a shattered motor car. You can see the debris on the right. What on earth happened there? I don't know. Whether it was a sudden loss of downforce for some reason.
It looks as if the steering wheel collapses when looking at the yellow button. The front left suspension arm here looks to have broken just before entering Tamburello.
And here it is. Now look, he's going into the left-hander tremendously fast, and he runs wide and goes straight off. Doesn't even attempt to take the corner. And, well, I say that's about 190 miles an hour at that point, the exit from the Tamburello. They're still building up speed, but it was not very far short of 200 miles an hour. You can see the debris pouring off the car as Gerhard Berger comes through in the Ferrari. Yes.
At 2:17 p.m, inside the Williams garage, Patrick Head was heard saying, "Steering power! What happened to the steering?"
The wheel had become trapped between the chassis and the wall before catapulting up and hitting the Brazilian in the head, forcing it back hard against the carbon fibre headrest. At the same time, part of the suspension block on one of the wheels snapped off and broke through his visor, hitting his forehead like a bullet. Senna had been killed instantly the car hit the wall. Doctors rushed over to Senna, his body laid on the track, and his old friend Sid Watkins watched over him. Senna's steering column had been modified in an attempt to improve his driving position. Newey drew up the plans to reposition the steering column and reduce its diameter at one point. He described the changes as two very bad pieces of engineering, which Patrick Head and he were responsible for. The greatest driver to have ever raced in Formula One was gone. Was there a technical failure? Did the steering column break? Was it a puncture? Or did Ayrton push too hard and make a mistake? Such was the pressure he was under.
But I'm sure, because I know, because I had the same crash that Ayrton had in the same place, I know that you can go out in this corner only if you have a mechanical failure on the car.
Personally, I feel there was either equipment failure or maybe most likely a right front tire going down due to a puncture. You have to remember that just before the restart there was a huge accident. The race was stopped, and it's very likely that they did not do obviously a perfect cleanup job, which is sometimes impossible, and some of the debris on the track could have easily caused a puncture on the right front, which would make the situation so critical at the start of a race when the tires are cold and the air is still low. The air pressure in the tires is still low because it takes about 4 or 5 laps to build up to to its normal range. So when the air pressure is low, the car has a tendency to really bottom very heavily. And the corner that he was entering, called Tamburello, after start-finish line in Imola, is sort of a no-challenge type of corner. So it's a corner you do flat even in the wet. But you're still putting the car under load, and from what I've seen, Ayrton's car never really attempted to turn. If anything, it almost looked like it just, almost went straight. There was no driver reaction to, to really do anything, because it just something that caught him by surprise. Any driver can make a mistake. In this situation, as I see it, it's impossible that a mistake could have happened, because if you make a mistake, there is at least an attempt to do something. And here there was something that whenever you have a mechanical problem, I've had experience with many, unfortunately, you're along for the ride because you can't help yourself. Something is broken and nothing you can do. If it's a mistake, the guy at least will try to recoup and do something to the end, but he will have some control of the car until you obviously get into the wall. But this was not the case at all. There's no way in the world this could be determined a mistake by any stretch of the imagination. When that happens to an individual that did not make a mistake that would cost his life, then you know that he was just totally unlucky to have something happen to him that was beyond his control and killed him.
Ayrton Senna's death shocked the world and was reported worldwide. Ayrton Senna's body was flown back to Brazil on 4th of May, and was mourned by millions after his tragic death at the San Marino Grand Prix. The loss of such an icon was felt acutely in his homeland, where the Brazilian government declared 3 days of national mourning. Senna's coffin, draped in the national flag, was flown back from Italy in the passenger cabin of a commercial jetliner, accompanied by his brother and close friends. The funeral, broadcast live on Brazilian television, drew an estimated 3 million people to the streets of Sao Paulo, where Senna was born. Dignitaries from the world of motorsport attended the state burial, including Alain Prost, Jackie Stewart, and Emerson Fittipaldi. Senna's tomb in Sao Paulo's Morumbi Cemetery bears the words, "Nada pode me separar do amor de Deus." Nothing can separate me from the love of God.
Senna was almost certain that he knew the reason why he believed the Benetton was gaining an unfair advantage by using traction control, an electronic system that had been banned by FIA for the 1994 season. Right from the start of testing in 1994, Schumacher knew he had a superior car, and he knew why. He realised traction control was worth an extra second a lap. He was part of the conspiracy with Walkinshaw and Tad Zapsky. Schumacher knew it would make him almost unbeatable. Zapsky, arguably the greatest software engineer ever to work in Formula One, went along with what Tom Walkinshaw asked him to do. During pre-season testing, he used it sparingly to avoid earlier detection. Richard Williams, who first exposed Benetton's team's cheating in this book, The Death of Ayrton Senna, was present at the test and said he, Schumacher, was not silly enough to overplay it when told that people were speculating about how he was now faster than Senna. Walkinshaw also knew that the switch was the key to it all. He was the first engineer in the paddock to really understand this, and together with Zapsky devised a system that would keep traction control on the Benetton cars but make sure its use was undetectable. He alone understood that concealing the switch was the solution to the ultimate cheat. The suspicions gained further credibility in 2011 when Schumacher's teammate from 1994, Jos Verstappen, claimed the German was using banned electronic driving aids. Jos Verstappen said, "I know what happened when we were together at Benetton. People think I'm looking for excuses, but I know that his car was different from mine. I always thought it was impossible. I braked at the limit and took the corners as hard as possible. So how could Schumacher do it? There was something wrong. There was electronic driver aids. It was never mentioned, but I'm convinced about it. And when I later asked Flavio Briatore, he replied, 'Let's not talk about it.' So I know enough now." Like everyone else, Michael is also dependent on his car. For most people, he was a god, but he is no Superman. In a go-kart, he never beat me. Schumacher's apparent speed had baffled Senna at first. Senna knew he was personally the fastest driver. He knew the Williams car was faster, and he knew the Renault engine was more powerful. He knew that Williams was better funded and a better run team, so he couldn't make out how the Benetton car was still proving quicker than his Williams when it counted. He was also amazed how much slower Schumacher's teammates Leto and Jos Verstappen were in the same car. Schumacher consistently went 2 seconds a lap quicker than either of them. The Brazilian Grand Prix opened the 1994 season on the 27th of March. Ayrton Senna got pole position and Schumacher was second, just 0.3 of a second behind. Senna was on the absolute limit throughout qualifying, whereas Schumacher seemed to be almost taking it easy. More revealing, Schumacher was a staggering 1.9 seconds faster than his teammate Jos Verstappen in the same car. For whatever reason at the start of the race, he did not use the launch control software installed on his car. After Schumacher's third easy victory in a row at the San Marino Grand Prix, where even the FIA scrutineers were suspicious, the FIA called in a company called Liverpool Data Research Associates, LDRA, to investigate the allegations of cheating using traction control and launch control. The LDRA then set out to find the traction control on the Benetton that they were certain existed after studying video film on the car on the track. That wasn't easy, as once it was turned off, it was invisible. Eventually, LDRA investigators found it. They found it could be turned on by pushing the throttle pedal to the floor and holding it there, while simultaneously pressing other buttons and paddles on the steering wheel in a certain order. LDRA's reports made it apparent that cheating in Formula 1 was easy and virtually undetectable. Look carefully at the Benetton of Schumacher. It does not leave any wheel spin tyre marks, while all the other cars on the grid do. Schumacher and Benetton were continually exposed as serial cheats as the season went on, and throughout his career. While Ayrton is still revered to this day, 30 years on from his tragic death, the F1 great's legacy continues to outlast the records. Senna has inspired an entire generation of drivers, not least both Schumacher and Hamilton, to pursue four-wheel greatness, while his charity to this day continues to change the lives of the less fortunate in Brazil.
Ayrton Senna said, "Being cheated is worse than being defeated." Defeat in a sportive way may be hard to take, but if you take it properly, it can make you better. But if you are defeated because you were cheated, that's really unacceptable.
When Michael Schumacher equalled Senna's 41 race wins at Monza in 2000, the normally metronomic German displayed a rare burst of emotion by breaking down in tears. Was this a sign of guilt for cheating during the '94 season, and he felt partially responsible for Ayrton Senna's overdriving, which may have led to his crash at Imola?
I'm not sure you're aware, but this is your 41st victory, which puts you equal second all time with Ayrton Senna. Do those records mean a lot to you?
Yes, it does mean a lot to me.
Senna's accident at Imola in San Marino in 1994 was avoidable, as it was proved in court in the second trial opened in 2005. Yes, it was a technical failure, but an avoidable one.
Williams Francis Owen Gar.
Here is a picture of Ayrton Senna and Patrick Head in 1994, who was found guilty for omitted control in the reopened trial of 2005. According to experts, the modifications in the steering column have been badly done. A 3,000-page technical report was submitted by Bologna University under Professor of Engineering Enrico Lorenzini and his team of specialists. The report concluded that fatigue cracks had developed through 70% of the steering column at the point where it had broken. Lorenzini stated it had been badly welded together about a third of the way down and couldn't stand the strain of the race. We discovered scratches on the crack in the steering rod. It seemed like the job had been done in a hurry, but I can't say how long before the race. Someone had tried to smooth over the joint following the welding. I have never seen anything like it. I believe the rod was faulty and probably cracked even during the warm-up. Moments before the crash, only had a tiny piece was left connected, and therefore the car didn't respond in the bend. Newey gives new insight into Senna's death and why he feels guilty over it. Newey, who was the chief designer of the Williams FW16. What I feel the most guilt about, though, is not the possibility that the steering column failure may have caused the accident, because I don't think it did, but the fact that I screwed up the aerodynamics of the car, he said. I messed up the transition from active suspension in 1993 back to passive and designed a car that was aerodynamically unstable, in which Ayrton attempted to do things the car was not capable of doing. Whether he did or didn't get a puncture is taking the inside, faster but bumpier line in a car that was aerodynamically unstable would have made the car difficult to control, even for him. I will always feel a degree of responsibility for Ayrton's death, but not culpability, Newey said. The fact that the Roland Ratzenberger case had been so easily swept under the carpet left me suspicious that Passerini's principal motivation might be personal glory and notoriety. Ayrton touched millions of people's lives during his racing career, but 30 years after his death, he is remembered for much more than a set of statistics in a record book. The values by which he lived continue to inspire people who watched him race and others who never knew him, but who identify with the constant search for perfection that drove him to explore new limits. His influence is still felt throughout the world, and particularly in his native Brazil, where the Ayrton Senna Foundation has been able to help millions of disadvantaged youngsters make a better start in life. He was a fierce competitor, but inside the yellow helmet was an emotional man, someone who thought about life very deeply, and who never sacrificed his principles. He had immense focus, concentration, and self-belief. He combined all these gifts with self-discipline and determination to achieve his goals, both on and off the track. The path he took was at times a lonely one, away from family and friends in Brazil. In Brazil, a third of the children are malnourished. Millions of children live on the streets. Shortly before Ayrton's death, he began to use the profits from his many endorsements to help a new generation of Brazilians to beat hunger, poverty, homelessness and crime. After his accident, his family took up the cause. Senna's legacy had been literally a lifesaver for millions of children. Senna was everything to everyone. He symbolised the new Brazil and brought the pride back to a struggling nation. "30 years have passed, yet Senna and his career story remain as inspirational and illuminating as they ever have. The brilliant yet intense racing driver from Sao Paulo that so captivated the world. Viviane Senna's wonderful work, which she was doing in the footsteps of her brother for the underprivileged in her homeland. I have the memories in my heart. He wanted to make a difference, but not just in racing.
Mas tudo isso que eu consegui foi através de dedicação, perseverança, e muito desejo de atingir os meus objetivos, muito desejo de vitória na vida, não vitória como piloto. E a vocês todos que assistiram e estão assistindo agora, eu digo que seja quem você for, seja qualquer posição que você tenha na vida, no nível altíssimo ou mais baixo social, tenha sempre como meta muita força, muita determinação, e sempre faça tudo com muito amor e com muita fé em Deus, que um dia você chega lá, de alguma maneira você chega lá.
On the 11th of April 1993, at the European Grand Prix at Donington, the late great Ayrton Senna took the win against all odds, including an opening lap that redefined bravery and skill in the wet. His win in the one-off race at Donington Park is best remembered for the greatest opening lap of all time, which saw him climb from 5th place to take the lead in less than 4 kilometres. Donington was a special place for Senna, as he had driven an F1 car for the first time there 10 years previously. Ironically, it had been a Williams. "A race that will live in my memory forever," said the eminently enthusiastic voice of F1 Murray Walker, describing the misty, rain-soaked Donington Park Grand Prix circuit duel in April 1993.
On track, he was totally focused. In the wet, I don't think there's been anyone this quick.
Quite wet on the circuit.
There's a lot of unknown.
Look at that, he's there, he's in an underpowered car, he's at a disadvantage, it rains, the conditions suit him. Just classic Senna.
He was fifth into the first corner, but whereas everybody else was really going on tiptoes trying to find where the grip was, Ayrton instinctively knew where the grip was. Corner after corner, he just leapt in front of everybody.
He was overtaking the class of the field at that time. Schumacher, Wendlinger, Hill and Prost.
A single lap, his inner instincts just took over.
The really great ones like Senna have to be willing to stick it right on the limit all the time, to sort of risk everything.
Conditions like this is gambling and it's taking chances, and I think we gambled good and we got the result.
There it is, the Sega Cup.
Creativity in those moments wins a race like this, and it was not only mine but the team too.
Ayrton Senna raced in 10 Monaco Grand Prix, winning 6 of them. The first he likely would have won had the race not been red flagged early because of the rain.
Has come up through the field. He started in 13th place and he's now 7th.
Well, Senna has shown exceptional talent. The wet is where the talent shows.
And Prost is stopping. And Senna crosses the line before he gets there. Formation, I'm virtually certain that Prost has won with Senna second.
Really a tragic result for Senna. However, he's not about to be world champion this year. He will undoubtedly be world champion in the future if his career continues.
On his second visit, he qualified on pole, only for his engine to give out, and on the third, he finished on the podium.
You feel like that in the last 3-4 laps when I really thought we had the race, and it was a fantastic feeling.
And the fourth was that infamous day in 1988 when we learned even Senna was fallible. He'd taken pole by a massive 1.2 seconds from McLaren teammate Alain Prost and was almost a full minute ahead of the Frenchman when he crashed out at Portier.
That is Senna! Sensation! Ayrton Senna goes out of the lead on the Monaco Grand Prix.
Without that crash, Senna would have won the race an incredible 7 times in a row. Ayrton Senna's epic onboard pole lap at Monaco 1990, where he took pole position, recorded the fastest lap and won. The spine-tingling spectacle of Senna on a qualifying lap have provided some of the most thrilling moments in the history of motorsport. But it's his penultimate Monaco victory that is perhaps his most impressive, since it's a race he had no business winning at all. Senna had won again, equaling Graham Hill's record of 5 wins, a record he would take outright with his final Monaco victory the following year in 1993, and one he still holds to this day. Why was Senna so good at Monaco? I'm inclined to believe that that was due mainly to Senna's apparently superior hand-to-eye coordination and seat-of-the-pants feel. The subtle adaptations of torque generated by his keynote throttle jabbing technique and the changes in yaw they brought, which no software could model, allowing him a flexibility that denied others. Nowhere was this more obvious than at Monaco.
From 1985 to 1987, Ayrton's formative years at Lotus saw the traits and tropes that would become the Senna legend develop and become crystallized as facets of his personal and professional makeup. Senna's breathtaking natural speed and single-minded determination had been evident throughout his junior racing career, but it was only when he reached Formula One that these traits became amplified, exaggerated, and intensified by the pressure of performance at the pinnacle of motorsport. Senna's very existence was fueled by his pursuit of the Formula One World Championship, by the validation of being the best of the best. The Brazilian's 3 seasons at Lotus gave him the proof, conviction, and, crucially, the platform to demonstrate that this was a tangible goal.
The paddock. Going up into Druids, Nelson closing, myself closing, round Druids, down the hill, and here we have Keke trying for the inside line, drawing right alongside now, so they're side by side, and then Senna chopping right in and his rear left tyre touching Keke's front.
To a problem with the official clock, the finish line had been moved 80 yards back from the starting line. If the finish line had been left where it was, Mansell would probably have won the race. As things were, Senna won by a whisker in the closest Grand Prix final for years. When the lovely Donya turned up again, everyone cheered up except Dennis Jenkinson. She clearly fancied him, but Jenks is no cradle snatcher. But Senna in the Lotus Renault once again showed that for qualifying at least, he had even more urge under his foot than Piquet or Mansell. He made Piquet, Mansell, Prost and Senna pose for a group shot to show that at the top of Grand Prix racing they were all buddies like the Politburo. The funny thing is that it's almost true. Even when they hate each other, it's on first names.
The rivalry between Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost remains one of the most riveting and intense in the history of F1. These two giants of the sport engaged in a battle of talent and will that encompassed personal ambition, contrasting racing styles, and profound cultural differences, creating an enduring narrative that defined an era of the championship. Senna and Prost would both go on to win multiple world championships in what was a golden era for F1 racing. Their Suzuka showdowns of 1988 to 90 attracted record worldwide audiences and popularised the sport as never before. In the aftermath of these incidents, the Senna-Prost rivalry took on an even larger dimension. Their clashes weren't merely about wins and championships, they became a reflection of their starkly contrasting personalities and driving philosophies. It's a rivalry that transcends F1, and one that will always be mentioned in the conversations for the greatest battles in the history of the sport.
Senna has got going again, back on the track.
And Senna is still leading. Senna with this testing Narrartion. Ayrton Senna wins in Japan. Is there going to be a stewards' inquiry? Alain Prost will have one if he can.
In retrospect, the Senna-Prost rivalry stands as one of the most dramatic and consequential in all of sport. It transcended the confines of the racetrack, transforming into a narrative of ambition, risk, defiance, and ultimately tragedy. Both Senna and Prost left an indelible mark on Formula One. Their shared story, a compelling reminder of the heights of glory and the depths of contention that can coexist in F1. Before qualifying for the 1990 race had even begun, Senna lobbied track officials for pole position to be moved to the left and onto the racing line. He believed he'd got their consent, but after claiming pole position, he was told he would start from the right-hand side of the track once again. Senna saw the hand of FISA President Jean-Marie Balest in the decision, the same person he blamed for his disqualification from the 1989 race. Senna was seen as a passionate and ruthless competitor, willing to push boundaries to win. His performances, particularly in qualifying and in wet conditions, were extraordinary, cementing his reputation as a supremely talented, almost mystical figure in the sport. His tragic death in 1994 at the San Marino Grand Prix further solidified his status as a legendary figure. Ultimately, there is a multitude of accomplishments throughout his career and his life that go way beyond the 41 wins and 65 pole positions that he obtained. He was a man with enough determination, legendary skill, and more compassion than many others he shared the track with. And that's why we think, just like many others, that Ayrton Senna was the greatest F1 driver of all time.